I was just talking about this because, being in LA, I'm always like, people talk about it as if like, and then Nevermind came out, and then there was just like a line drawn in the sand. So I was down there, just before that kind of stuff broke. But I'll tell you that the Sunset Strip was on fire.
Yeah.
Like it was like wild. And I think that although literally the next year it was sort of things started to shift, it was like you could stand out on the Sunset Strip, never going to a club, and you were at the greatest party you've ever been to. It was bizarre. I was like, because we were like literally, and people would be like, now you got to take these flyers and go and hand them out for your show. And I go, what? Okay. And we'd stand there and hand out flyers. And for someone to tell you that like in a few years, this won't be like this, you would have been like, oh, there's no way. This is like, look at this.
Yeah.
There's no way. You could, the entire, however many miles or mile that is, it was just wild. And we were like, it was crazy. And at that time, have I ever told you how we met Slash on that trip?
Well, did you meet? I've heard you mention you met him in the Rainbow, but that's all I know.
Yeah, we would go to the Rainbow, as everybody did every night. Back then, it was like you'd go in there and it was like, from the pages of Metal Edge magazine, you just got to look around and everybody was there, We were just sitting at the November Rain back booth, me and my bunch of hick kids from, the small town Canada. And Slash was at the next table, which is technically where he would always hang. I didn't know that at the time, but and this is before Use Your Illusion came out. And there was no bigger band to us than Guns N' Roses, to anybody really. Guns, especially off Appetite, was like the perfect greatest band of all time.
Yeah.
Guys with names like Slash and Izzy and Axl and Duff, like, who are these fucking guys? Like they were just from another planet. And the record was so dangerous and so, they were cursing on the records, which was like one of the first things I'd heard. It was one thing to hear Dee Snider curse on stage, which was like radical enough, but to hear them cursing on the records was like, whoa, this is some, other than like Wasp or something like that. I get,
And the original artwork was dangerous as well.
And it was very dangerous. Yeah. There was a whole dangerous gutter of Hollywood kind of thing about those guys. And he just sort of, we were just sitting there in the club, and Slash gets, he gets up in the leather and the hair and, hey, who are you guys? And we're like, we're from Canada. Oh, wow. And he sits down and hangs out with us. And it was bizarre because I, of course, mentioned this to Slash in 2010 or whatever. I go, we met back in like, 9 years. Or, yeah, I don't know, whatever it was. Oh, geez, I guess it would have been almost 19 years ago, whatever, prior. And he goes, was I nice? I go, you were really nice. He was like Dean Martin drunk, kind of like, hey, like he was like hosting at the fucking Playboy Mansion in the 60s or something.
He must have thought you looked cool, though.
He was just really nice and just sat down. He had some girls with him and they sat down. They were at our table and we're like, hey, we hung out. Because I remember our lighting tech for years after would say, because he quit smoking directly after, he goes, my last cigarette was lit by Slash. Because you could smoke in the Rainbow back then.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, that's a pretty cool thing that you just quit smoking after. He goes, well, I was looking to quit anyway. So I thought this is a good time to quit. Yeah. Slash from Guns N' Roses lit my last cigarette. It was wild times because, it was like Lemmy was there. Mm-hmm. We literally walked out of the Rainbow one night and Arnold Schwarzenegger was in Terminator gear and they filmed the outro to You Could Be Mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. They came out of the Roxy on the side door, walked past Arnold, that whole scene that happens.
Yeah.
And it was bizarre like that to have been in the middle of it. And we just immediately went back to Canada and did our thing, and we did just fine. But it was a bizarre experience. I mean, like I say, when I look back on it now, I go, I didn't in any way think that this is a dying scene. If anything, it felt like there was a lot of like, this is the next big band, and you're like, okay. In retrospect, now when I think of Nirvana or whatever, or Alice in Chains or Soundgarden or any of the groups that came along, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, you kind of realize that maybe some of the gas tanks were running a little low on some of that scene. You're kind of like, oh, okay, I get it now. But like I say, at the time, it seemed like this is a thriving and very alive industry.